Good evening, everybody. I hope you are all well. Good evening, YouTube. Good evening, Facebook. Good evening, TikTok. Hope you are well. Sorry, my fault. I've been messing about trying to get TikTok sorted. I do apologise. All right. I will when he comes on. He's not on yet. Half my face is missing on TikTok. Yes, I thought I'd come over to the East Wing tonight to do the ghost stories. As you can hear, it's raining outside and slightly windy. We've got the fire on. So good. Lindsay. Hey, Tracy. Can you do me a favour, Lindsay? I know you're at the other side at mansion. Could you come from servants' quarters, please, and bring me, there's a bottle of Pepsi on side, a little bottle in kitchen. Would you mind bringing me that upstairs, please? If you wouldn't mind at all. I would appreciate it. Hey, Carol. Yes, this is the East Wing of the property. Needs a dust, but apart from that, it's... Oh, and Lindsay and me, Sig. It saves me going downstairs. Otherwise, I have to leave you all in the East Wing by yourself. And it is fairly haunted in here. And I wouldn't really want to leave any of you on your own in the East Wing. I'm not insured for any damages that happen to anybody else in here. Good evening, Amy. Good evening, Claire. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Scotty's not turned up yet. I don't think she's listening to me. I know. I hope she remembers me, Sig. It's warm in here with that fire on. Hey, Gillian. I'm going to be in trouble. There's a little bottle of Coke.
It wasn't full.
No, it's on the side in the kitchen. It doesn't matter.
Okay, get the little one.
No, it's all right.
The ladyship requested I bring it up.
All right. That's my little bottle of Coke. It's all right, Yo-Yo. Don't worry about it. I'll manage with that. Do you know? So we did do ghost stories. I can't remember if it were on members or it was on the main page a few weeks ago. And oh, thank you, Yo-Yo. Little bottle, big bottle, little bottle, big bottle. Other drinks are available. It's just because I like Pepsi. Hiya, Ghost Lady Nanny Lynn. I hope you're well. Do you like our East Wing? Weather's shocking. Hey, Freddie, I hope you're well. We are doing ghost stories tonight. We're not out an investigation. As you can hear outside, the weather's shocking. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if that wind's actually not the recorded one. The lightning's recorded. It's not raining. Well, I don't think it's raining. It weren't. Pardon me. Yes. So we're just doing ghost stories tonight. And carve them pillars. And carve. Oh, that's funny. My vape disappears on TikTok. So anyway, last time we did them, I can't remember. I think we did South York. We did Yorkshire. And I know Soldier, I don't know if he's on or not, Soldier or David Davies, did ask me if I would do Cheshire. I'm sure it was Cheshire. Oh my God, Claire's on pink gin. Hello, Laura. Hope you're well. This isn't the bungalow, by the way. This is the east wing of our house we have now. So, Cheshire, for those who are not in the UK, Cheshire is a county in the UK. And Soldier did ask me if I'd read the chapter on, hiya Diana, on Cheshire. No, I'll move mouse away from there because I'll end up closing it down. So we'll start. Brayton Green. And I probably said that wrong. Oh, yeah. Yolanda's got a new phone. Oh, Soldier is here. He is here. Look, you were Cheshire, weren't it, Soldier? Cat in a box. Where's cat in a box? We've got a cat in a box. No, there's a little freaky thing. So you can't see it on TikTok. They can. There's a little freaky thing sat on that table. Just keep your eye on that, because if that moves, I'm out of here. I'm telling you. Out of here. Yeah, Cheshire. Is it Brereton Green? Or Brereton? I don't know. There is no legend about Breretons, formerly owners of Brereton Hall. About the Breretons, formerly owners of Brereton Hall. That they, like many other ancient families, had a death omen peculiar to themselves. In their case, it concerned a lake on their estate. Whenever the head of the family was about to die, a black tree trunk would be seen floating in it. There is a disagreement among the local historians as to whether the lake is Blackmere, which still exists, or Bagmere, which is being drained. The omen is referred to by several writers in the 16th and 17th centuries. Scotty, if you nip over to TikTok, I will sort you out, mate. William Camden, in his Britannia 1586, gives a slightly variant account where it announces the death of the heir, not the head of the family. A wonder is that I shall tell you, and yet no other than I have heard, verified upon the credit of many credible persons, and commonly believed, that before the heir of this house of the Bretons' death, there be seen in a pool adjoining bodies of trees swimming for certain days together. Just give me a minute. I have no idea how to do this. Oh, now I'm stop moving up. There you go, mate. Should be all sorted now. Another sinister tradition recorded by Christina Hole in the 1930s is that once a year, the ghosts of all the Bretons that ever lived gather at Shelagh Church. The Black Phantom coaches in which they arrive block the lane leading to the lonely church. Why do all places in Cheshire have to have difficult names to pronounce? Burley-Dam. In the 1950s and 60s, members of the Women's Institute in Cheshire compiled 2 volumes of village memories, which include many interesting items of tradition and belief. Among these is the claim that there is a bottle buried under the doorstep of the entrance to the Combermere Arms Hotel, in which 2 clergymen once imprisoned a ghost which had been troubling the place. If it is ever broken, the ghost will return worse than ever. Stories on this theme seem to have been especially popular in the Western countries in the early 19th century, so it seems likely that this tale may be equally old, though only recorded in the mid-20th century. Congleton. In the 19th and also the 20th century, people reported seeing the ghost of a white cat sitting on a post near the remains of Congleton Abbey. If human beings approached, it would jump into the air and vanish. It was said to have been a cat belonging to Mrs. Winge. I think I married her. A housekeeper at the former abbey. Some accident must have befallen it, for one evening it returned to her cottage only in spirit form, contentedly sitting on the steps but refusing to enter. When she tried to coax it indoors, it slowly disappeared. Every evening the cat would come and sit on the step, but always disappeared before the eyes of friends and neighbours who came to watch it. The appearing and disappearing cat has been linked with the Cheshire Cat in Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. There you go, you see, Laura, you're psychic. Hey, Claire. No, Claire's on Pink Gin, so I'm glad she's on you. She's on TikTok. She's out of way. She's not causing any trouble on there. Coombs Moss. Don't you get hungover, Claire. Oh. Coombs Moss. Fletcher Moss, a local historian writing in the 1890s, was told by one of his informants that when the railway to Buxton was being built, some of the navvies, for a lark, stole an old skull which had been kept for generations in a farmhouse at Coombs Moss. From then on, they had nothing but bad luck. Earth slips buried much of the track they had laid, and other stretches were destroyed by subsidence. Many of the men fell ill, and all were alarmed by horrible and inexplicable noises. When they told their boss, he ordered them to take the skull back to where it belonged and offered to give its ghost a free pass on his railway line forever. After that, there was no more trouble, though the scars of the landslips long remained visible. This particular legend cannot go very far back into the Victorian period, since it involves the construction of a railway line. The general theme of a skull that resents being disturbed is, however, quite widely found. Dudden. The pub in this village is named the Headless Woman, and its signboard does indeed show a woman carrying her severed head under her arm. Pubs displaying this image, now rare, were generally called the Silent Woman or the Quiet Woman, as a joke against chatterboxes. Only decapitation could keep them quiet. In this case, however, I am reading this isn't my opinion, by the way. In this case, however, the explanation offered is a local legend about a servant's loyalty during the Civil War. Jacob Larwood reported in 1866 that the licensee at the time displayed a notice telling the tale. A party of Cromwell's soldiers engaged in hunting down the royalists in the Cheshire district visited Hocken Hall, but found that the family, being warned of their coming, had buried all their silver and other valuables and then fled for safety, leaving only a faithful old housekeeper in charge of the hall, thinking it unlikely that the soldiers would do her any harm. The soldiers, being incensed and finding nothing of value, locked up the housekeeper in the top room and proceeded to torture her to tell them where the valuables were hidden. She remained faithful and was finally murdered by the soldiers, cutting off her head. Tradition says that afterwards, on numerous occasions, she was seen carrying her head under her arm, walking along the old bridle path between Hocken Hall and the spot where it comes out on the Tarporley Road near to the public house. The story is repeated in many more recent books with additional details, such as the name of the faithful servant, said to be the cook called Grace Trigg. Some say the soldiers carried her body and the head to a cottage at Dudden to hide them. This building was later on turned into the pub. Gorsworth. A notable site in this village is the isolated grave of Samuel Maggerty Johnson, a playwright and music master of the 18th century whose eccentricities won him his nickname, the equivalent in the slang of the time to batty or nutty. Jester at the local Old Hall. Probably the last professional domestic jester in England. When he died in 1773, he was buried at his own request in a little wood rather than in the village churchyard. The lengthy inscription on the tombstone is his own composition. Understandably, there is a local tradition that his ghost can be seen. A 20th century sexton reported meeting him one moonlight night riding a white horse and followed him through the wood towards the grave. He was just in time to hear the bump of the gravestone thudding back into place once Maggerty was inside. I know they're only short ones, these. Lyme Park. According to a tradition of the mid-19th century, Lyme Park, near Disley, is said to be haunted by a phantom funeral which slowly approaches the house, followed by the ghost of a woman in white. At the same time, bells are heard tolling. This is said to be the reenactment of the funeral of Sir Piers Lee, killed at Agincourt and brought home to be buried in his own park under a mound still called Knight's Low. The ghostly woman is not his wife, but a local girl who he had loved him. When she heard of his death, she drowned herself in a stream by a meadow called Lady's Grave. Marbury Hall near Coma Back. Up to the 1930s, a skeleton used to be kept in an oak chest in this house. Why this should be so is not known. One explanation might be some family member had been a medical student or an art student who used it in his work. But of course, such a dramatic and mysterious object inspired rumours, and by the mid-20th century, a colourful legend had developed with several variations of detail. According to this tale, at some unspecified time in the past, one member of the Barrymore family, owners of Marbury Hall, travelled to Egypt, where an Egyptian girl fell so passionately in love with him that after he left, she made her own way to Cheshire and refused ever to go home again. Some say he then married her, others that he had meanwhile married his English sweetheart, but installed the Egyptian at Marbury as his mistress. In either case, it is said she grew so fond of the house that she insisted if she were to die, her body must remain there, not to be buried in the churchyard. In due course, she did die. Some say she was murdered on the staircase. But her request was ignored, and she received a normal funeral. Soon afterwards, bells began ringing of their own accord, and her ghost was seen riding a white horse. To put a stop to this haunting, the family disinterred her corpse and brought it home, where it was laid in an oak chest. A later generation of owners, it is said, tried to transfer it to the family vault, while others tried to get rid of it entirely by throwing it into Budworth Mere. Each time they were forced to bring it back, it was kept in the chest until the 1930s, but then removed. Some say it was reburied in the churchyard at midnight, others that it is bricked up somewhere in the walls of the house. The park round Marbury Hall is also reputed to be haunted by a more conventional ghost, a lady on a white horse, who can be seen at sunset. She is too supposed to be a Lady Barrymore. The inspiration for this legend was a real mare, the Marbury Dun. so swift that Lord Barrymore wagered that the whole itself that she could gallop from London to Marbury in a single day, between sunrise and sunset. She won his bet for him, but tradition asserts that she dropped dead on arrival after drinking from a trough in the yard. She was buried in the park under a stone, reading. I will read it in a minute when I get my comments back up. Here lies Marbury Dun, the finest horse that ever run, cloth in a linen sheet with silver shoes upon her feet. The ghost story which grew from this claims that Lord Barrymore had bought this mare as a wedding present to his wife, promising it would be there on the wedding day, and in order to keep his promise insisted on the fatal gallop. Lady Barrymore was so upset that she died soon after of a broken heart, and her last wish was to be buried by the well where the horse died, not in the churchyard. Lord Barrymore refused. Her ghost told him she would never rest, but would ride her lovely mare forever. That's a while ago. That. Just let me. No, I'll have a vape. I'll not have a drink. I'll have a vape. You remember that rhyme? Well, have you done that one before, Lindsay? Oh, sorry, I just disappeared off TikTok. So, Neston. When she was collecting Cheshire folklore in the 1930s, Christina Hole was told how a Catholic woman had seen the ghost of a priest but had not realised it at the time. Her name was Teresa Higginson, and she died in 1905. She was a key holder for the Catholic Church at Neston, and early one morning a priest whom she did not know called at her house and asked to be let into the church so that he could say his daily mass there. She unlocked the church and attended his mass, to which, since it was an unscheduled one, nobody else came. Afterwards, he went into the vestry to disrobe, but when she followed a little later, there was no one in there, though there was no way out except through the church. Perplexed, she told various other parishioners what had happened, and from a description of the stranger, the older ones knew that it must have been the ghost of a former parish priest long since dead. The implication of the tale probably is that the priest had neglected to say the masses he had promised to say on someone's behalf, and could not rest till he had fulfilled his promise. Stanny. The collection of local anecdotes collected from members of women's institutes in the 1950s includes a standing joke against the people of Stanny as being timid simpletons. Allegedly, they were so terrified by a duck which used to wander down the lane towards Stoke that nobody dared go that way. Eventually, a band of men ambushed it, cut off its head, and buried it at the top of Stoke Lane. But things only grew worse, for now the ghost of the duck haunts the lane, waddling past without a head. Stockport. We've nearly finished Cheshire. In the 19th century, a ghost known as Gately Shouter was said to haunt the Gately cars. A swampy morass near the river in the parishes of Stockport, Northern, now Northenden, and Didsbury in Cheshire, now Greater Manchester. Fletcher Moss, writing in 1894, told the story in the language of the old folks who remember the occurrence. And in 1898, he told another version in many of the same words, but with additional details. He said he had been told the whole tale many years before by an old man who was then over 80. I am not sure whether he said he was present at the Great Hunt or he only remembered it, Both 1894 and 1898 versions may come from this source. The differences in the 1898 text probably being attributed to Moss's aiding information gleaned from other informants in the interim. In both tellings, the shouter was in life a dishonest tradesman who after death is being punished for giving short measure. In 1894, he is reported as laminating milk short o measure, butter short o weight, oh dear, oh dear. But in 1898, the Gately shouter sang a verse of an old song, sang it often in Gately cars when the moon was at full. Milk and water sold I ever, weight or measure gave I never. Almost the exact same lament, only 2 words different, was uttered by old Molly Lee at Burslem, Staffordshire. Fletcher Moss's 2 versions with their different details are a salutary reminder that when a 19th century collector says a story is being told in the language of the old folks who remember the occurrence, this does not necessarily mean that what follows will be a verbatim transcript of what the storyteller in fact said. In the earlier account, the shouter is called a boggart, but in 1898 is described as an uneasy spirit who came out of the grave in a northern churchyard and squeaked and gibbered about the car lane to Gately. Even in the first telling, Fletcher Moss acknowledges that the man had been a Barrow. The man had been a Barrow. And in 1898, he identifies him more precisely. Now, this I'm going to struggle because it is written all in Old English. It does, doesn't it, Lindsay? I never thought about that. I sure the Gately shouter were Jim Barrow ghost. He come fro cross acres t'other side o' Gatley. Them Gatley folk were a gallus, mischievous lot. Old Jim were desperate fond of brass, and he stuck to as he could lay hold on. And he stuck to her as he could lay hold on. He'd have flayed 2 fleas for one. He would, and when he did, old Scrat got him, and he won't. He did so, and Jim might have been heard a neat's moaning. Oh dear, watered milk, till folks got plaguey feet a-going, yon road after dark. Now there come a new passon to Northern, a scholar fresh from Oxford or Rome or somewheres. Chockfu o book larning, and he played the hangment. We are the ghosties I these parts, and he said he'd tackle him. This, I'm glad I book it like this. So we got o' the parish and could read or pray a bit to come with their Bibles, and one neat when the moon were out, old Scrat mun have been firing up for the shouter, were being rarely fettled by the way as he moaned, and all the folk got round. I man, they drew taut one another in a ring, like, and kept coming closer till at last they'd gotten him in a corner. This is how it's written. In the churchyard by the yew tree, and the person, proving me person that the person was on the grave and he whips a bit of chalk out and his pockets and draws a holy ring round 'em all, and all the folk join in and pray, despite look, and the person whoops about and shouts. So it's ops about and shouts and bangs the book till he saw a muck sweat. Really? And he prayed at I'm in Latin too, mind you, as we'll as English, Annie the poor ghost moans and chunners and gets littler and littler till he fair swells away like a snail that's salted. And at last the devil were drove out of him, and he lets I'm abide as quiet as a mouse. He's now under yon big stone nearby the parson's gate. You may see it for your sen, and your sen is actually spelled Yosen. It's there now. You may see it for your sen. Therefore, by implication, the story was true. And that's Cheshire. So we've done Cheshire. Is there another county in the UK that anybody would like me to read about? Well, we've got Bedfordshire, Berkshire, Buckinghamshire, Cambridge, Cornwall, Cumberland, Derbyshire, Devon, Dorset, Durham, Essex, Gloucestershire, Hampshire, Herefordshire, Hertfordshire, Huntingdonshire and Peterborough, Kent, Lancashire, Leicestershire, Lincolnshire, London and Middlesex, Norfolk, Northamptonshire, Northumberland, Nottinghamshire, Oxfordshire, Rutland, Shropshire, Somerset, Staffordshire, Sussex, Surrey, Sussex, Suffolk, Surrey, Sussex, Warwickshire, Westmoreland, Wiltshire, Worcestershire, and we've already done Yorkshire. Somebody must have a preference. We've done Yorkshire, Claire. We're drunk. I can have a quick drink now. Penny wants Buckinghamshire. I know. They didn't though. That was all of Cheshire. It's quite an old book, this though. It says, but then again, I suppose stories that would have been in Derbyshire. So Derbyshire, we'll do them all anyway. I don't know if we did Derbyshire actually. It might have been Derbyshire, not Yorkshire. We did. I can't remember. I will have a look because I will remember. Oh, really? 72. I need Lindsay to come upstairs in a minute anyway because it looks like that fire needs some more wood on it. Let me have a look at Yorkshire. Because now I'm not sure. You what, Lindsay? No, I'm taking Mickey. I said fire needs some more wood on it. I think. Flamborough. Or below. Yeah? Can I see you? I can't, Lindsay. I've got doors shut. I didn't hear a word of that. I've got doors shut and I've got sound on and computer. I can't hear a word you're saying, Lindsay. I do apologise. I know she said, can I see somebody in chat? But I have no idea who she said. Hey, Scott, I hope you're well, mate. Yeah, we're in the West Wing tonight. I don't know why you just don't type it in chat. or message me, Lindsay. If you message me, I'll look on my phone. Although TikTok's on my phone. We'll do Derbyshire. I'm not sure if it was Derbyshire we did. I can't remember if it was Derbyshire or Yorkshire. I can see your comments, yes, Jules. I do apologise if I missed them, but we're reading. I'm not paying much attention to it. Not paying a great deal of attention to chat. Hey, Robin. Everybody that's joining us tonight for his ghost stories. Oh, did she say, can I see her comments? I can see I will stop shouting. Hey, Robin. Derek Lowe, can you see me? Derek in chat. Oh, has Derek answered you? Derek, can you see Lindsay in chat? I think that's what she was asking me. Yes, she can. Yes, Lindsay, Derek can see you. So we're going to Derbyshire. I'm sure we did Derbyshire. Oh, we're still sitting comfortably. Well, there's only Scotty on TikTok. I might just come off TikTok. But hey ho. You see, I think we did Derbyshire. But I can't remember if I did it on members or not. So I'll do it again. It's okay. Yeah, I can see Derek on Facebook. I can see everybody when I look. I've seen a few comment. I've not seen Derek comment very much. Yeah, just you, Scotty. That's it, mate. Right, Derbyshire. Arbor or Arbor Low on Middleton Moor, west of Yulgrave, is a double entrance henge monument dating from circa 2000 to 1600 BC. Standing high above sea level and commanding a wide view, it was probably, like other henge monuments, a ceremonial and political centre. It has been known by this name, meaning earthwork hill, since at least 1533, when it is recorded as Harbour Low. Oval in shape, the henge's grass-covered bank and ditch, less imposing than they once were, thanks to erosion, enclose what is perhaps originally an egg-shaped rather than a circle of white limestone blocks. Officially numbered at 46, these stones are not upright and perhaps never were. All but one, which leans at a shallow angle, have lain flat on the ground since the monument was first described in 1761. While writers in 1783 and 1824 cite local men as having said that within living memory, or that of their fathers, the stones had stood upright, excavation has failed to reveal any sockets cut into the limestone to hold them. In the centre of the circle, near three larger stones, was found the skeleton of a man buried in an extended position. And in a round barrow near the southeast entrance of the monument, a cremation burial was discovered. Possibly, local people knew of these burials or else assumed the dead were buried here, as in the 19th century the site was said to be haunted and avoided after dark. In Romances of the Peak, 1901, I think we have read this because I remember W.M. Turner says that coming away from Arbor Low after a visit in 1897, he accosted a young herdsman tending some cattle and asked him if he knew how it came there and what its purpose was. The herdsman said he could not tell. He only knew what old people had told him, that it had been there undisturbed for generations. That was all. except there might have been a battle there and people buried about the place. How did he come to know that? Well, you see, he said, the folks round about never go that way at night for fear of boggarts. Several have been seen prowling about, and it is a common talk that people must have been buried there. See, that one sounds familiar. Just going to water cabbage. She on pink gin and all. Bolsover Castle, or Bowser Castle. If you're welcome, Jules. Of all the houses I have seen, wrote Lewis Jennings in 1880, the castle at Bolsover is the most weird and ghostly. Strung out along a hilltop, its history reaches back to William the Conqueror, who gave the site to William Peveril. Jennings describes wandering through the ruined parts of the castle, knocking in vain on doors until at length he found the old caretaker. She admitted him to the rooms that were still roofed and furnished. A vaulted hall with portraits, the star room with a chair in which the famous Bess of Hardwick, born 1527, used to sit in her days at Bolsover. Bedrooms called Hell and Heaven and the Duke's Chamber. Dark recesses in the tower with grated windows, one of which the old woman said was Mary Queen of Scots' dungeon. The place had a feeling to it which Jennings had not encountered elsewhere. It looks like a haunted house. He said to the woman, "You would say so if you lived here," she answered. But for the time, she said nothing more. She then took him downstairs to cellars and passages said to be the remains of the Norman castle. Here was a high vaulted chamber used as a kitchen, which was connected by a stone passage with a sort of crypt. Beneath this, she said, was a church never opened since the days of William Peveril. Their footsteps had a hollow sound, and Jennings thought there must have been empty space below the stone floor. But what it had been used for, no one seemed to know. He remarked jokingly that this was where all the ghosts came from, to which the old woman replied seriously, "It is, sir, and when the family are here, the servants sometimes will not come down here except by twos and threes. Oh, many people have seen things here besides me. Something bad has been done here, sir, and when they open the church below, they'll find it out." She went on to talk of uncanny experiences of her own. "Just where you stand by that door, I had several times seen a lady and gentleman, only for a moment or two, for they come like a flash. When I had been sitting in the kitchen, not thinking of any such thing, they stood there, the gentleman with ruffles on, the lady with a scarf round her waist. I never believed in ghosts, but I have seen them. I am used to it now and don't mind it. What she and her husband, who came to sleep there at night, did mind were the noises, which disturbed them, on occasion seeming to follow them round the house, carrying on worse when they left a room, but always falling silent when they were in it." Bradwell. In Bradwell, Ancient and Modern, in 1912, Seth Evans tells the story of the lump boggart, the lump coming from the Old English word for a pool. He writes, "It used to be said that about a century and a half ago, the body of a young girl who was supposed to have been murdered was found buried under the staircase of a house at Hill Head. The ghost of the girl appeared every night until everybody in the neighborhood was terrified and thrown into a cold sweat. Unable to bear it any longer, the people got a well-known individual who belonged to the Baptists to undertake the task of laying the ghost. And this individual professed to be able to rule the planets, and of course, no one doubted his power of getting rid of that ghost. The time came and the haunted house was filled The time came and the haunted house was filled with affrighted spectators when the exorcist appeared among them with his paraphernalia, and when he prayed until streams of sweat poured from his face and he knelt within a ring he had chalked on the chamber floor, the lookers-on kneeling around and latter afterwards declared that they felt the floor move for yards up and down in quick succession. Then the magician arose and exclaimed, "Arise, arise, I charge and command thee." When the spirit appeared and the man ordered it to depart and assume the body of a fish and to locate itself in the lump mouth, he also ordered that every Christmas Eve the ghost should assume the form of a white ousel and fly to Lumley Pool. By ousel, it's presumably meant the ring ousel, which nests in crevices in cliffs and rocks. Evans calls this story an absurd tale, which everybody believed even down to half a century ago. Derwent Woodlands. A village of this name once existed together with its small church in the area which was submerged when the Lady Bower Reservoir was made in the 1940s. In the 1990s, several writers on Derbyshire law picked up oral versions of an eerie tale about that church. This said that a new vicar who came to the parish from the south of the county disapproved of various superstitious practices he found here. In particular, he was shocked when the church wardens told him it had been custom since time immemorial for the vicar on the last Sunday in December to preach the sermon for the dead in the empty church at midnight. The wraiths of all who were fated to die in the coming year would gather there to listen. The new vicar refused, calling it witchcraft and saying he would allow no such thing while he was the incumbent. Yet when the last Sunday came, he felt impelled to go and climbed into the pulpit. All at once he saw the spectral forms of some of his parishioners in the gallery, among them his own. Sure enough, he was dead within a year. The plot of this legend is obviously akin to the stories about men who kept watch in a church porch to see wraiths, as at Dorstone, Herefordshire. Though the Sermon of the Dead described here is an intriguing variation. Derbyshire is one of the areas where covert Catholic practices lingered long after the Reformation. A correspondent of the Gentleman's Magazine in 1784 described how children at Findon lit bonfires on the common on All Souls' Night, which the adults said were meant to light the souls out of purgatory. Conceivably, the people of Derwent Woodlands had a custom of praying annually for the dead of the parish and expected their vicar to cooperate in this. I'm just looking how many there is, man. I get through all these. Dunsker Farm. The skulls still kept in some houses in Derbyshire were probably originally displayed as simple curios, or perhaps, judging from the position of some of them in windows, like witch balls, as evil averting charms. Bones mentioned by S.O. Addy may have had a like purpose, though explained by a ghost story in Household Tales, 1895, he writes, "There is an old farmhouse in the Peak Forest in Derbyshire, at which it is said there once lived two sisters who loved the same man. To put an end to their rivalry, one sister murdered the other, but the dying sister said that her bones would never rest in any grave, and so it happens that her bones are kept in a cheese vat in the farmhouse, which stands in the staircase window. If the bones are removed from the vat, trouble comes upon the house. Strange noises are heard at night, the cattle die or are seized with illness. Though he speaks of a skull rather than bones being kept here, Clarence Daniel in Ghosts of Derbyshire 1973 identifies this unnamed farmhouse as Dunsker Farm near Castleton. Others say the cheese vat in the staircase window was at Tunstead Farm. Eckington. From Eckington came a sombre fairy tale related to the 19th century collector S.O. Addy. The Golden Cup is a horror story possibly told to children to stop them pestering adults. There was a little girl who owned a golden cup, and one day her mother went out telling her she could play with her cup that day. So the child asked a maid to fetch it from the cupboard. But the maid said she was too busy. The girl nagged her, and eventually the infuriated maid murdered her, burying her body under one of the stone flags in the cellar. When the mother returned, she asked for her child, but the maid claimed that she could not find her. Then the mother was deeply grieved, and she sat up all that night and all the next night. And on the third night, as she sat alone and wide awake, she heard the voice of her daughter outside the door saying, "Can I have my golden cup?" The mother opened the door, and when the daughter had repeated the question 3 times, she saw the spirit. But the spirit vanished at once, and she never saw it again. Great Longston. Shady Lane, a stretch of road running between Great Longston and Ashford-in-the-Water, is said to be haunted at twilight by a procession of 12 headless men carrying an empty coffin. Clarence Daniel in Ghosts of Derbyshire 1973 answers the question of why an empty coffin, with a surmise that the procession is a death omen. He writes, "My guess is that the coffin is intended for the unfortunate person who meets the strange funeral cortege. No wonder the people living in the district avoid travelling down Shady Lane at dusk or dawn." Hayfield. Addy reports in Household Tales 1895 that the tradition that in the 16th century all the dead in the cemetery surrounding the ancient chapel rose from their sleep in golden raiment. Despite the date, he appears to be talking about an event concerning the communal grave of flood victims, recorded as taking place in 1754. In a letter written by the Reverend Dr. James Clegg, the nonconformist minister of a nearby chapel on Firth, he writes, "On the last day of August, several hundred of bodies rose out of the grave in the open day. To the great astonishment and terror of several spectators, they deserted the coffin and rising out of the grave immediately ascended directly towards heaven, singing in consort all along as they mounted through the air. They had no winding sheet about them, yet did not appear quite naked. Their vesture seemed streaked with gold, interlaced with sable, skirted with white, yet thought to be exceedingly light by the agility of their motions and the swiftness of their ascent. Left a most fragrant and delicious odor behind them, but they were quickly out of sight." It is possible that this is an invented story told by a clergyman to demonstrate the truth of the dogma of the resurrection of the body. However, it might well be a glamorized version of a true event, as Paul Barber has written in Vampires, Burials and Death, 1988. The tendency of bodies to return to the surface has generated a great deal of folklore in Europe and elsewhere in the world. The bloating of drowned bodies and the shallowness of the mass grave dug in a hurry would both conspire towards this. Magpie Mine. We've been to Magpie Mine. Magpie Mine, close to Ashford-in-the-Water, and now a listed industrial monument, is like a number of other lead mines in the Peak District alleged to be haunted. The mine was worked for 300 years until its closure in 1924 and is said to have been cursed as it has a record of fires, floods, and rockfalls. According to David Clark in Ghosts and Legends of the Peak District, 1991, the curse may have originated in 1833 when 3 men were suffocated in the lead workings. O'Neill, in an article on lead mines and mining in Derbyshire countryside, 1957, gives an account of a spectre thought to have been seen in the mine in 1946. He writes, just after the war, a party of speleologists were exploring the mine when one of them reported that he had seen a man with a candle walking along a tunnel from which he disappeared without any trace. A photograph of another member of the party on a raft in a sow, which is a short level for drainage, at the mine, showed a second man standing apparently on 9 feet of water. The old man was clearly either trying to protect his ancient rights or to help the 20th century searchers find the ore, which is reported to be thick and pure in the main vein, now 150 feet below the water level. O'Neill says Toad Mon, or the Old Man, was a generic name for the miners of former days, but also describes him as a kind of guardian spirit over the mine. He reputedly also haunted Hanging Flat Mine near Heyn, where he wandered around the floor spar workings with a spade over his shoulder and muttering to himself. Addy says it was a custom of Derbyshire miners on Christmas Eve to leave half a candle burning in the mine for the old man when they finished work for the holiday. If he was inclined to lead miners, if he was inclined to lead miners to good veins of ore, Toad Man would be one of the more helpful spirits to be found in the haunted mines. Although Magpie Mine is now run as a field centre by the Peak District Mines Historical Society, David Clark reports that it retains an eerie atmosphere. Parson's Tor. Towering over the upper reaches of Lathkildale near Overhaddon is a limestone crag formerly known as Fox Tor. Murray's Handbook for Derbyshire, 1868, after describing how the River Lathkill issues from a cavern in the limestone opposite Parson's Tor, says briefly, this derived its present name from a sad accident that befell the parson of Moniash. This was the Reverend Robert Lomas, incumbent of Moniash, found dead on the Tor, 12th of October 1776. Already by the time the handbook was written, a ghost story had become attached to the true event. Llewellyn Jowett, in the Ballads and Songs of Derbyshire, 1867, reprints a ballad that had first appeared in a book written in 1864, written by the Reverend W.R. Bell, a former curate of Bakewell. It was founded partly on facts and partly on local traditions, and tells the following story. After a night of disturbing and ominous dreams, the parson of Moniash set out on horseback for Bakewell on a Friday morning. Arriving a little after midday, he had hoped to catch the vicar of Bakewell after morning service to have a word with him. But as chance would have it, the vicar was called away immediately afterwards to attend a dying man. When he got back, he invited the parson of Moniash to dine, and it was 6 before the latter took his leave. The night grew darker as he rode on his way. The drizzling rain turned to sleet, and by the time he drew near Haddon Grove, he was lost in thick mist on the moor. Dismounting, he led his horse, groping his way on, arriving in the dark and obscurity on the brink of Fox Tor. His horse refused to move. The parson, not hearing the warning roar of the Lathkill, above the noise of the gale, continued tugging the reins, and when the horse suddenly backed off and the reins snapped, fell headlong over the edge onto the rocks. When he did not return, his servants, Hugh and Betty, were anxious. Betty remembering the old superstition concerning Fridays. A Friday's venture, no luck, I've heard say. But Hugh, trusting that his master was staying overnight safe to his friends. Next morning, however, the truth of what had become of him was supernaturally revealed to them. At dawn of the next day, old Betty went forth to milk the cow in the shed, and saw him sitting upon a large stone, all pale and mute, with bare head. But a moment she turned her eyes away, a fall she heard, and a groan. She looked again, but no parson was there. He'd vanished from off the stone. The report of a ghost soon spread, and a hunt for the parson was made. At length they found his body lying amongst blood-stained rocks at the foot of the Tor, and buried his corpse in Monash churchyard. So I'm going to say good night to TikTok. So take care, guys. I shall see you all soon. Nobody on TikTok. Nobody on TikTok anyway. Oh. So we'll do a few more. Shirebrook Colliery. Reported in the Sheffield evening newspaper The Star in November 1958 was a spectral incident at Shirebrook Colliery. John McGrory, an Irishman working there, saw a ghost and passed out from the shop. All I will say now is that I saw a vision and a light, said Mr. McGrory later. The vision went past me. It looked like Wilfred Hales, another miner. Keith Plant also reported seeing the apparition and recognizing it as Wilfred Hales, who had collapsed and died in January 1955, aged only 30. There was so much talk of this event among the 2,000 men working at the colliery that the management complained that the output was severely reduced. It would not be surprising if work had been disrupted. According to traditional miners' beliefs, apparitions in mines generally precede a disaster, and the ghosts of dead miners frequently return to deliver warnings to their workmates. Sorry, Scotty. I would just thought I'd end it. We're only with one mate, so. And I knew you were on here and all. I thought you don't really need to be on two platforms. Tunstead Farm near Chapel and Lifirth. For several hundred years, this farm was home to a broken skull nicknamed Dickie or Dick. The first published account dates from 1807 in a tour through the High Peak of Derbyshire by John Hutchinson, who stated that it had remained on the premises for nearly 2 centuries during all the revolutions of owners and tenants in that time. Hutchinson was told by the tenant of the farm that Dickie is looked upon more as a guardian spirit than a terror to the family, never disturbing them but in case of an approaching death of a relation or neighbour. But if anyone spoke disrespectful about the skull or tried to remove it from the farm, it showed its displeasure. Twice within the memory of man, the skull has been taken from the premises. Once on building the present house on the site of the old one, and another time when it was buried in Chapel churchyard. But there was no peace, no rest. It must be replaced. However, it could be moved about inside the house. G. LeBlanc Smith in 1905 said the family insisted its place was on a downstairs windowsill looking out over the farmland. It was still there in 1938, but has not been seen for many years now. It is said locally that the wife of one of the owners buried it in the garden because so many visitors came to see it. Stories about Dickie's powers flourished in the 19th century. For instance, it was said that in 1863 he forced railway engineers to divert their planned route away from Tunstead Farm by causing the foundations of their bridge to sink in a swamp. The new route passed over what is still called Dickie's Bridge. The best recent investigation was carried out in the 1990s by Andy Roberts and David Clark, who found many vivid anecdotes still circulating, though these were mostly about events long past. One informant, Margaret Bellhouse, told them in 1993 that Dickie could be very helpful, but that people wouldn't dare walk across Dickie's land after dark, and there was a strange black dog which used to follow people down from the main road and then vanish into the hill. The tradition was this was Dickie's spirit seeing them off his land. As to the skull's identity, Hutchinson is silent. Most 19th century accounts say that a certain Ned Dixon in the 16th century, the rightful owner of the farm, went abroad and on his return was murdered by his cousin to gain the property. Ned haunted the place till his grave was reopened and his skull brought into the house. Alternatively, it reappeared of its own accord and could never be got rid of. Others thought Dickie was a woman and identified her as the murdered sister in a story told by Addy of an old farmhouse in the Peak District, said to be Dunsker Farm. And our last one for tonight, Worm Hill. According to tradition, the neighbourhood of Worm Hill was once a forest and crowded with trees. It was then the haunt of wild animals. The antiquary and historian William Camden, writing of Derbyshire in Britannia in 1610, observes, "There is no more danger now from wolves, which in times past were hurtful and noisome to this country, and for the chasing away and taking of which some there were that held lands here at Worm Hill, who thereupon were surnamed Wolf Hunt, as appeareth plainly in the records of the kingdom. It may have been this feudal tenure by Wolf Hunt that inspired a tradition reported in 1991 by David Clark that the last wolf in England was killed here in the 16th century. This in turn may be connected with reports of a phantom animal on the B6049 linking Millersdale with the A6 northeast of Buxton. Motorists have allegedly been chased at night by a strange wolf-like beast running and leaping at immense speeds after their cars." And that ends Derbyshire. So guys, I am going to leave it there for tonight. I hope you have all enjoyed joining me in the East or West wing this. In this wing of the house anyway. I hope you all enjoyed the ghost stories. Keep an eye out, please, on the page for what's happening tomorrow. We will be live. I know Lindsay will be on in the afternoon on TikTok doing tarots. And I don't know. It all depends on the weather tomorrow night, whether we're out on investigation. But as far as I'm aware, I will have a look. I know it's not morning, and we only do weather on a morning. According to my weather, it's going to be raining tonight from about, hold on. Come on. Tomorrow morning. It's going to rain at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, and then it's going to rain from 12 midday till 5, and then it's dry. So we'll see how much rain we do get tomorrow. Because if it is dry enough for me to go out tomorrow night, I will go out and try and do an investigation tomorrow night. Or I could do one in this wing of the house. Has that thing moved? There. Has it moved all night? Might say gutted because this backdrop, the sounds with the backdrop, right? And you can see that window there. Oh, you can't. Window. I hate this. Behind my head. There's a window behind my head. Well, on the actual thing, it's a video. So the fire's animated and it moves. And you can see the lightning through the window. My head went away. But unfortunately, StreamYard doesn't allow you to use a video file as a backdrop. You can only use a JPEG, not an MP4. So I've sorted all this out and spent ages trying to get it to work. I can't get it to work. Hopefully Facebook, maybe Facebook will let me use it. I don't know. I'll have to see. If not, I'll have to sort. Yeah, I actually paid for it and all, so I had to buy it. It's a 6-hour-long video of this room that we're in, with fire going and lightning. And I don't know if any ghosts appear on it. I'm not sure. What? I don't even want to know what that's for. Oh, smoking a cigar. Did he get? I wanted. See if I can find it. What I'm going to get, what I'll get, right? Lindsay will not let me get it. What I wanted were one of these. This is what I want. Right? It's an e-cig, but it's a pipe. The Westminster iTouch e-pipe full gift box vaping set. I don't know if you can put normal juice in that or not. No, I'll have to look at it. But that's what I need. Sitting with pipe in my mouth. I know, and I don't know. No, that way. I don't know. It's because it's all back to front on me. I'm opposite way around, aren't I? I don't know if on the video. I don't know. I can't. It could be. I don't know if that moves, that thing on video. So, guys, I'm going to let you all go now anyway. And it'd be right funny, that, wouldn't it? Like Popeye. So, have a great night, guys, and I shall see you all tomorrow. Bless be, stay safe, and we love you all. So, take care. Good night.